Why buy your next vehicle from Community Motors of Mason City?
Great service from 3 locations. Community on Monroe, Community Motors Westside, and Mason City Ford. 10 new franchises and hundreds of vehicles to give you more choices. Plus, Community offers an exclusive 3-3 warranty on pre-owned vehicles and 10-year, 250,000-mile warranty on new. Need more reasons why? Stop or visit CommunityAutoGroup.com.
Because nobody beats a community deal. Nobody.
Let's move to number 2, multi-purpose center discussion. Mr. Trout, you can give a quick open. Obviously, everybody's read your memo.
Right. Through the process of, once the session completed with the legislature, went back and looked and did some analysis in my mind based on the way things ended, and I really don't feel comfortable with us moving forward, continuing our multi-purpose center discussion. I think we would have had a substantial amount of money that we would have had to do in a reduction to our budget in order to be able to afford it because of the use of TIF. And if the reform that's been considered were to pass, it would be even greater of a reduction. And so therefore, I feel like it's time to, in my mind, to shift to a different area. And the first one that comes to my mind is the working on the certified shovel-ready sites. We've talked about that, but we had already had some meetings with Mr. Willett and how we go through that process, and so therefore I feel like we need to do it. I still believe that right now, based off the research that conducted with staff, that our facility has the potential to operate in the black, and that it should be considered from that standpoint. But the ability to pay for it and the reductions we have, if the legislature made a change with our property tax system, it would be making, I think, changes to services that we provide our citizens, and it's not the way to go. And I've had, obviously, a number of conversations with you, with many of you, about the issue of if it was a priority, top of our high priorities for consideration of the shovel-ready site. So that's why I'm looking at that as being one of those areas that would be picked up by not focusing on multi-purpose.
Hey, Mr. Trout, anybody have anything to add to that?
Mayor?
What was that? Yeah. Ms. Marinas, please.
I just have a question for Mr. Trout, though,
Yes.
that just because we don't necessarily put the multi-purpose center as a top priority, we can still have it within our bucket of or toolbox, if you will, of things that are possible, don't you think? I'm not sure that the legislature is going to do anything for the next several years, and if the economy turns around and things start looking better, it's always something that we can go back and revisit.
I agree with that from the standpoint of that, based on the research, and we've spent a lot of effort looking at this, that we're ready. I mean, we're prepared to be able to pursue it if it's something that is a priority to the city, the citizens, the council. We could go back and continue to move forward with consideration of it, but it really, the issue that I felt was that the uncertainty is where my concern is, and they may not touch it for the entire next 2 years. It may not have anything happen, but the other issue we're looking at is the amount of money that we had in our TIF without further development that might occur there, and the number of years that we have in the existing districts. The dollars were right on the edge, and so for us to be able to afford to actually do the construction. So I think that had an impact. I know that had an impact on my decision making.
Well, and I agree with your analysis that we probably should put it aside for a while, but I think it's also one of those things that it was put aside before, and it's come back again. So I'm not saying that we need to totally disregard it. I agree with you putting it off for a while, but I don't want to just erase it altogether.
Well, I can say that one of the things that with all the research that we did do, all of it remains relevant. None of it will change what is considered to be the need. The need is not likely to go away unless somebody else, without us, develops another ice rink. That need for ice time is not going to go away. So that, which was one of the driving forces for the consideration of it, and then also the looking at different forms of entertainment to bring to the community so people don't go out of town is still gonna be a need that's not gonna go away. So the identified need is always gonna be there until something else changes. So I agree, it's still relevant.
And I think there's I think all the factors that have been identified have definitely been components of it. The other last component that I would say is that we didn't see the private fundraising, come to a level or really get engaged. And that, I think that is a big factor as well. So. Mr. Kuhn.
I would just add, I agree with Gene that, me personally, I still want to send a message that this is still something that's very much still alive as a project. This might not be happening sooner rather than later. Private fundraising, I think, needs to happen to make this feasible. The only thing, from my perspective, I just want to go kind of on the record saying that I was a little disappointed that, and me as well as everyone saying that we're going to continue to wait and see what the legislature does if they don't do any substantial changes to property tax reform or TIF, that then we'll strongly consider a feasibility study and looking that they didn't. And we can always say that, I mean, there's hundreds of bills on the table every year, so I just don't want to continue to say, well, they could do this, so let's wait. So I just think, I don't want to say we misled, but I think many times myself as well as others saying, let's wait and see what they do. If they don't do anything, then let's put a feasibility study out there to vote on. So I would almost be still in favor of voting for that, except knowing that we're probably not going to do this now. We should wait until we are strongly considering again to do the feasibility study, so we have accurate and updated numbers when we do go through that process. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. Anybody else? Mr. Rogers.
Well, we have a little bit of a catch-22. Going back to where we first started talking about this, which has been 3 years, 2.5. I've always been fairly comfortable that we could build the thing, that we had financial mechanisms by which we could build a facility with controlled risk to the community. My uncertainty has always centered around operations, and that uncertainty has never been satisfied. We would have to do a feasibility study to ever get to that point. And even if we got to the point where, as a citizen, I was satisfied with that risk, I still am of the mind that it's something that should go before the voters because of the long-term implications. The wild card here is though that uncertainty hasn't been addressed, whereas at one point in time I was fairly comfortable with funding mechanisms for construction. I've lost that level of comfort. And it is true there are hundreds of bills down in front of the legislature at any point in time, but I think what's unique to this one is you've got a governor that's front and center talking about property tax reform as a priority. And that differentiates this from other things that are in front of the legislature. And I think this is going to be a priority. Whether anything happens or not remains to be seen, but I don't think the governor's going to stop talking about it as long as he's in office, unless something gets done. And that creates enough uncertainty for me that whether something happens this year or whether something happens next year, until the governor says, either I'm satisfied with where we are, we're not going to talk about this anymore, that uncertainty is not going to go away from me. And so that's an uncertainty that I'm not comfortable moving forward on the multi-purpose center in any way possible. Where we have the catch-22 is we know we got a problem with the ice. I mean, that's how we started talking about this in the first place. We don't know how long we're going to have uncertainty on issues that are beyond our control. And we're obviously talking about the legislature and we're talking about Des Moines. But we know that with every day that goes by, the ice isn't getting any better out at the fairgrounds. And I think it might be okay to keep this project kind of on our queue. To me, it moves to the very bottom of the list if it stays on the list at all. But I think while we're in this holding pattern, it behooves us to take some initiative and sit down with the Fair Board. They're doing a lot of good things out there. We can't let the ice at the fairgrounds go in limbo forever, or else we'll end up shooting ourselves in the foot. And so if there's an opportunity now, given the situation that has arisen in the multi-purpose facility for reasons completely beyond our control, to maybe become a partner or a supporting entity rather than, if nothing else, a roadblock through indecision at what may or may not happen at the fairgrounds. We're all in the same community, and I think it's in everybody's best interest to make sure that we don't lose our eyes at the fairgrounds. I don't know what the next step would be, but I think it's probably time for us to have some kind of a meeting at some kind of a level with people out at the fairgrounds and youth hockey, and we need to all try to figure out where we are.
Ms. Silver?
And I think to add to that, that's where I was gonna go too. We're starting to develop, North Iowa corridors, things like that. Maybe we need to get the county, engaged in that as well. Because we can't let that ice go. That brings in a lot of, not only tourism, but keeps everybody here. So I just think that we all need to get together and maybe, if you want to start with the Fair Board or whatever, and then maybe scoot in the Sarasota County or.
Right, I made a presentation out there about a month ago, so I've opened and continued dialogue with them on this particular project, and now, if we're not gonna move forward, I'll go back to them and say, okay, now we're at this point, what options do we have, and what are you looking at? And see what they've had, because they probably put something that they were looking at doing on the back burner until we made a decision, so find out what they were looking at for their options and determine if there's a partner in it.
Yeah, that'll give them a checkpoint.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Freitas.
I agree with Janet in the fact that we should maybe look at this as an opportunity to collaborate with our friends in Clear Lake and Sarasota County. Maybe we can collaborate together and figure out a way to get past this and the ice issue. I like that idea.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Lee?
I agree with a lot of what's been said, but I do agree, I would say it's kind of their, if we're gonna spend some time and energy, and it's not the money right now, it's time, and which is sometimes more valuable than the actual money. It needs to be focused more on the certified area. If the North Iowa Fairgrounds, the county has an idea to come to address, I think we can send Melissa. But to be the driving force behind this, I'd rather have this time and energy that we have geared toward other priorities. So I guess I'm with Councilman Tornquist saying put this on the very bottom, if not off. And if someone comes to us and says, hey, we got an idea, here's what it is, we'll sit, listen, have a workshop on it, listen. But I think the driving force can't be ours anymore. I think we have to focus on some other higher priorities. I agree, I don't lose the ice there, but it's, not to sound too frank, but it's not all ice. It is North, Mason cities and that, but I'm saying that I don't think it's a high priority, which can be right now at this time in junction. But I would gladly listen to a great idea somebody else might have. The partnership with county, with Clear Lake, with the North Iowa Event Center, I think is a great idea, but I don't know if we can be the driving force, or should be the driving force behind it.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Anybody else? Shaky?
I agree with you 100%. And I'm big into the tourism and everything else, and I'm a big supporter of the multi-purpose center. My sticking point has been on the private side, knowing, and I haven't heard it. Have we had anybody come forward, a lot of support, saying, hey, we're gonna help drive
No,
this?
I have not been approached by anyone about
And I haven't heard it.
participation.
So that's where my sticking point has been kind of on this, so I'm at the position now, yeah, let's put it at the bottom. If somebody's got a great idea, they come forward and they want us maybe look to working with the county or Clear Lake or whoever, I'm open to any idea or suggestion, but I don't think we should be driving it. And let's move forward on our other goals and priorities and get them knocked out.
If I hear council correctly, I think there's a relative agreement, everybody's kind of looking at it from different perspectives, but it sounds pretty fair to say that there's a consensus, we won't do a feasibility study now, and that'll give a checkpoint for North Iowa Event Center. Brent can give them a download from where we were at, and they can make some decisions from there. I know youth hockey, of course, has been watching. and they can start to talk with them, and if they want to approach the county, I think that's appropriate. The county is supposed to provide for a fair, and if it's not going to be council-driven, which clearly circumstances aren't necessarily putting that into that position, that it's a great opportunity for the county to lead a project here with the event center. If they're looking for partners, then they can come back and visit with us. Is that pretty much what you say is about what we're hearing from everybody as a collaborative? All right.
I will contact the director and the North Iowa Event Center and let them know where we're standing on this and we talk,
Good.
see where we're at.
Yeah, and I do want to put two quick kudos out, one to, and Mr. Bonson's here, I don't know if anybody else is in here from that, but they did a great job with the feasibility study, absolutely spectacular. Clearly showed that there was demand that was there, and staff did a very good job of putting those presentations together as well. It's a great example of how the process works. We moved through it. We're not lickety-split because this is government, but we did a nice thorough process, and we'll hand it off and see what they do with it. So.
Okay.